Hey guys, just reading a book called Like Father, Like Son. And early on, it tells all these statistics about people that grew up with fatherless homes, right? 90% of all homeless and runaway children, 85% of all youth sitting in prison, 85% of children with behavioral disorders, 80% of all rapists, 75% of all adolescent patients in chemical abuse centers, 71% of all high school dropouts, 70% of all juveniles in state operated institutions, 63% of all youth suicides. Um, and my wife told me one about serial killers that's in like the 90% as well. So, anyway, just basically saying how important it is to have a father in your life. And as a father, I take that very seriously, and I'm excited to be a father. And I of course do my best to fulfill that role, in the best way possible. But we all have different experiences, different perspectives, come from different situations, which determines, in a very large part how we parent and what kind of fathers we are and how engaged we are and what methods we use to engage and all that stuff, right? Um, but so this is a cool book, interesting book, I should say. I haven't gotten too far into it, and it basically highlights. It's written by two people. One of them grew up without a father and kind of beat the odds, and one of them grew up with a fairly engaged father, and kind of talks about the consequences of each and the different stories or scenarios as they go through life. The first trip of this type, or the first time I got in a fight, or the first, you know, first girl, all this stuff, and it's an interesting perspective, right? To just have the two stories laid out side by side. But here's a kind of a different point I wanted to talk about, though. It says they don't have the prototypical book smarts to write this book. Speaking of the authors, but they know what it's like to come from opposite sides of the track, and more importantly, they both understand that life and happiness have nothing to do with what side of the track you come from, and everything to do with where the train is going. I feel like that's so well said, and it's the truth. We all come from different places, and we have different levels of success in every different category of life and things. But how often, would you do you see somebody that you would say, I would trade spots with that person, or would you trade in your life for someone else's? Like, the answer is almost always no. Like, I've hardly ever met somebody that'd be like, I wouldn't change. Most people say I wouldn't change a thing because it made me who I am, right? They're proud of who they are, and they appreciate the life lessons they've gone through and things. And sometimes I'm looking at the person like, you really wouldn't change a thing? Like, your life sucks, right? But the truth is, like, nobody's life sucks, because the experiences we go through, we learn lessons that we hold valuable and we hold dear. And so, as he says, it has very little to do with the side of the track you came from, but where the train is headed. True joy and happiness comes from, like, focusing on goals and chasing those dreams and goals. Um, just having a family does bring happiness. Just to be a part of my family brings happiness. But a bigger source of joy is the challenge and day to day, opportunities I have to sort of take my family from A to B. How do I engage? How do I teach my kids? How do my wife and I share responsibility in providing, a safe home for my kids and the things they need? And how do my wife and I support each other? And, the game of it all, the challenges and the opportunities and the excitement and the sadness and the conversations and things. It's where we're headed as a family unit that is the real joy. And it's the same with work and with, if you're, sports, or whatever hobbies you're into, right? It's not necessarily are you at the top or did you come from the privileged side or the unprivileged side or whatever. It's how are you developing yourself and pushing to get to another level, right? To increase your value or the positioning within a certain market or hobby or family or whatever. So I thought that was really interesting. And that's something you need to keep in mind as you go through your day-to-day life, right? It's all about where the train is going. Like whether you started from point A or point G and you're trying to get to Z, it's still a fun journey and it's still valuable and you learn a ton of life lessons, right? So remember that, really harness that idea and use it in your life. It's so important. So anyway, check out the website. Hit us, follow us on Facebook, The Lifestyle of the Healthy, Wealthy, and Happy. Follow me on Twitter at Bronson Wilks. I almost said Titter. Anyway, and check out our book reviews and stuff. There's lots more resources for you there. We'll talk to you soon.